Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 10th of July. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning, fresh from his holly bags, Joshua Barry. How are you doing, Joshua?
Good, Derek. Good to be here. A little bit fresher than you, who I believe you were off a flight at 6 a.m. this morning, so you're the real hero here. But good to be back.
Yeah. Yeah, I got in at Manchester at 6:30 this morning. Flew from Bangkok. It was at the ORSA convention, which I'll discuss shortly. It was an absolutely sensational experience over there. Bangkok to Doha, and then a quick change, Doha to Manchester. So it took about 16 and a bit hours from Bangkok to get back home here in Warrington. But I'm here as we talk all things Rangers. As we all know, there's a bit of a sweep that goes on. That's what time we go live in the morning. So congratulations to RB, who got it nailed on at 9:31. David Christie also got the right time, and so did Alan McConnell. So well done, guys. Cyber pint for all three of you. ORSA, absolutely sensational time over there. Huge credit to the Bangkok Bears, who laid on an absolutely brilliant event over the last few days. We had some proper bona fide Rangers legends making their way over. We had Craig Moore, Stuart Monroe, Lorenzo Amoruso, and two Barcelona Bears, Dave Smith and Colin Steen, who were in fine form throughout the course of the event. It really was a pleasure to interact with them all. Angus, Scotty, and Stephen as well, who put the event on, and everyone from the Bangkok Bears, absolutely brilliantly organised. All the excursion went on. There was a golf day. We also had that went on the biggest tallest building in Thailand as well, where Lorenzo Amoruso made that funny interception on the morning briefing when he made Johnny's glasses steam up. So that was fairly amusing. But yeah, it was a brilliant event. The gala dinner was on Saturday. And it went really, really well. But by all accounts, everyone was delighted with how it went. Raised a lot of money also. So fantastic to see so many Bears from across the world as well that headed out there. You don't realise the global appeal sometimes with Rangers when we're sat behind the screen. We get people commenting in, but when you meet them face to face, it really shows you just the strength of this wonderful football club and how powerful it is that these guys can congregate on Bangkok from far and wide, the likes of Australia. Number of supporters travelled over from down under. There's also had supporters from Bali, Thailand. So many supporters in Thailand itself as well. There's many that came over from the UK also. So it was brilliant to have a chat with all of you over there at ORSA, and everyone now looking ahead to the event next year in the Sunshine Coast in Australia. So the bar is certainly being set very, very high, but I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic event next year. So yeah, absolutely sensational. Get to a few of the comments. The comments coming in, lots of them. So I'll try and get to a few of them. But what I'm going to do is we had, if you are a member on our YouTube channel, folks, I spoke to Stuart Monroe at the event on Saturday, and that's available to go and have a watch. So do go and have a view if you can. He's much loved. It was great to have a chat with him during my time in Bangkok, and likewise the other legends as well. So that's on there. There's also going to be a little snippet going up at some point as well of that gala dinner. So I'll get cracking on that at some point today. But yeah, hats off to the Bangkok Bears. Fully fantastic event that was laid on by everyone. And yeah, I can't wait to get back to Thailand. You been to Thailand before, Joshua?
I've not, but I was going to say you don't seem very jet lagged for having spent the whole night on a plane.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's hit me quite yet. I've got to be honest. Yeah, I'm surprised myself. I did try and sleep on the plane, but I'm not the best at sleeping on planes, unfortunately. But yeah, so far so good. But we'll manage to get this video done and talk all things Rangers, of course. Let's get to the here and now anyway. Well, Joshua, you've been away on holiday, right enough. You enjoy your time off?
I did, yeah. I've been keeping up to date with as much as possible. Busy couple of weeks, really, isn't it? Obviously, the team now away on pre-season. Squad, I think, really starting to take shape now, Derek, especially the signing of Dessers, which I think has been the one that's kind of dominated the window from the start. It's the one that seems to be the biggest outlay. Michael Beale mentioned yesterday just how long he's been tracking Dessers for. So I think that the squad and Lammers as well, you've got, I think, a lot of key players in there now. The top of the pitch is starting to, the kind of new Rangers, if you like, Beale's Rangers, the top of the pitch is starting to become quite evident. And now it's maybe the rest of the window is going to be dominated a bit more by a couple more additions in that area, but also we'll wait and see what happens with the defence. So, lots to talk about. And I think Dessers, particularly if we start a bit on him, really exciting signing to kind of kick off the Rangers pre-season.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So many comments coming in. Let's get to a few of them. David Brown says, where's the suntan, Derek? If I go on holiday to exotic places, if I come back the same colour, then I am delighted because I get sunburned in the shade. So I've managed to come back relatively the same colour. So no suntan for me, unfortunately, David. And good to have Dave Fulton tuning in. He says, morning, everyone. I thought I was going to be a bit late this morning after my tractor needed a jump start, but I've just pulled up at my first sight of the day, just in the nick of time. Absolutely superb, Dave. Thank you very much for tuning in as ever. Right, you mentioned there, Dessers, Joshua, of course, you've been off for a wee bit of time. Dessers and Sima have arrived since you've been off. What have you made of those two acquisitions? Of course, a bit of money, but Dessers is some serious cash has been spent on enticing him to Ibrox. Sima, of course, arriving on loan from Brighton. We all know him from his time when he started for Slavia Prague, of course. Good additions for you?
Yeah, well, obviously, firstly, Sima, Beale kind of, I think it was in the January window, spoke about the fact they didn't want loan moves. That was back then, I guess. That was when he was speaking about then until the end of the season. Slightly different, I think, if you've got a player who, with Sima, is a bit of maybe a unique loan move and a profile of player that Beale will really like, a quality of player that I guess is good enough for Beale to warrant getting that 1 year loan move commissioned. He obviously as well then gets to join up for pre-season as well. And that kind of came out was a bit more of a quick mover. It's not one that had lingered on for months and months and months. At a good age, obviously, if you're being loaned out by Brighton, then you're going to be a very good player as well, because they certainly know how to kind of negotiate the loans market and how to develop players. I think he very clearly fits into what Beale's doing at the top end of the pitch. You know, he's a goal scorer, he's a finisher, he's not necessarily a creator, but he can do that from wide areas. We've spoken a lot, Derek, on the members channel, on the website. We've got a few pieces about it that kind of look at what Beale's changing at the top end of the pitch, you know, moving away from that one deep line forward and Morelos and playing two players off him. Ever since he's come into the club, he has played with two quote-unquote strikers in whatever form. And I think he's kind of been quite limited by last season by the options that he had. Sakala played in something like 19 of 23 that Beale managed. And obviously Sakala, as everyone knows, can split opinion a bit at times. But what it gives you is quite a dynamic goal threat. You know, his numbers are pretty consistent. And he gives you that from wide areas. St Mirren the last day of the season, I think, demonstrates that. Sima seems to be in a similar mould for me, someone who can attack from wide areas, comfortable off the right side. And Dessers obviously is the kind of marquee signing. He's the one who Beale's.
Oh, Joshua's just froze on us there. That's a brilliant shot if you're watching this on social media at the moment. But let's hope we can
get
Joshua
for a while, and I think he's
back. He's back.
Carry on. Wi-Fi back in. Dessers he's the one you're going to work around, I think, Derek. He's the one who's going to be in the front line, who things are based around. I still don't think he'll always play as that kind of focal point. What we think of Morelos being the one in the centre at all points. Morelos towards the end of last season even played off the right more frequently than he did in the middle, kind of in that split striker role. And although he can contribute and do a lot of things well, and I think he called himself quite a rounded player in his Rangers TV interview, I think what he will give you more than anything is that goal threat, can finish off both sides. And something that you probably shouldn't underestimate, Derek, I think, is his work off the ball. When Beale criticised Morelos quite often, it was quite often about energy at the top end of the pitch. I think that comes on and off the ball in both facets, but I don't think you can underestimate how important it is to have selfless runners at the top end of the pitch for Beale. And if you read our scout report, there's just so many examples of Dessers intercepting off the keeper. There's one, I think it's a game against Marseille, where Marseille start with the ball at the centre circle. I think they've just conceded, or maybe it's half time, and Dessers presses his way effectively to a goal. I don't think you can underestimate how important that is for Beale as well, to get a player at the top end of the pitch that's going to be able to start the defensive side of the game there, as well as providing the goal threat that he'll hope in that whole season domestically. You'll be able to get the numbers that just Rangers didn't have at all ever since Beale came in last November.
Yeah, of course. News of this morning, if you're waking up, you'd have seen that Antonio Colak, of course, did report a number of weeks ago now that he was linked with Werder Bremen over in Germany. A number of clubs keeping tabs on the Croatian. John Adams says, how much is Colak worth? More than £2 million. That is a quoted fee. I've seen a number of publications this morning as what it would cost for a club to buy Antonio Colak. I'm on the fence with this one, Joshua. I think I like Tony Goals, as he's been christened. Yeah. I think he's got a role to play in the squad. Whether he'll be happy being a squad player is another matter. I'm not entirely sure I'd be looking to get rid of him at this moment in time. But listen, Michael B watches him every single day in training. We know he spent money on Dessers coming in. Lammers has come in. Seema's come in as well. Colak for me is a guy that can guarantee you goals against teams that play with that low block at Ibrox. I think he certainly is useful. But £2 million for you, would that be enough for, do you think, for Antonio Colak to head for pastures new?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends a bit on where Lammers plays as well. Is he going to play off the striker in that number 10 position? Is he going to play in one of the front two positions? I think it'll probably be a bit of both, but he's certainly capable of both. Seema's not coming to the club for a season long loan, pardon me, at his age to sit on the bench. Sakala, as mentioned, I don't think he's going to be someone that the team's built around, but his numbers, I think, can still be useful domestically as well. But I guess what you want, if you've got maybe 4 or 5 strikers, and this depends on whether Rangers bring someone else in as well, alongside the kind of 3 forward signings that we've mentioned already, you want different profiles of players. Colak does have that off-ball work that can go a bit under the radar, but I think he's quite an intelligent presser. I think he works quite hard, and that'll work in his favour for playing under Beale. What he doesn't have, I don't think, is, although he can, I think do the basics quite well of link and play, the 3-1 win at home to Kilmarnock comes to mind. He doesn't have maybe that same dynamic outlet that a Dessers does, or a Seema does, or a Lammers. It does in different ways that they can, Lammers obviously can carry the ball in quite a unique way for a forward, is very two-footed. Dessers similarly is not quite as much finesse maybe on either foot, but he can attack from either side. He can really finish on his left foot as well. And Seema, as mentioned as well, someone quite comfortable attacking from wide areas. So Colak doesn't necessarily fit that mould. Maybe the argument is then, as you say, Derek, that you want someone who kind of plugs the gap in another area. And if you've got that 4 or 5 number of strikers, you want across the board to be covered for the different type of matches that you're going to have to play. Colak obviously his numbers in the first kind of half of the season were really impressive, and the point then was he wasn't necessarily getting great chances. He was finishing on scraps. He struggled in the Champions League, but I think, as mentioned, everyone did. He obviously scored that big goal at home to PSV, and that was his trademark finish, arriving in the right side of the box, finishing across his body, as he did for Malmo when Rangers fans first kind of got to know him in that Champions League qualification game. I'd imagine it's dependent on the money and if anyone else comes in, but he's also at, 29 going on 30.
Yeah.
Is he going to be happy with that role in over the course of the season? And I guess that really comes into it as well.
Yeah, if he does go to Werder Bremen, I think that's a cracking move for him. It is, of course, I know he's a Croatian national, but brought up in Germany, of course, has played in Germany before. I think that is a move if he were to move.
And you need to think as well, Derek, just on that. Remember when Colak didn't get into the World Cup squad, and it was quite obviously really devastating for him, and he did a press conference after kind of speaking about that. But I think you've got to remember, don't you, like players' individual aspirations. He'll want to play for his country again, and this is kind of the peak of his career. But then maybe he's looking at it and he's saying, well, I'm just going to stay and fight and take my chance, because there's not going to be many comparable sizes of clubs that he's going to be able to go to at this stage in his career. And competition isn't a bad thing. Again, this is something that Rangers didn't have last season at all under Michael Beale. Remember, in his first couple of months, he was saying, you don't know what players I like because I've not got any options. And I think competition can, of course, only be a good thing if you're trying to drive that up ahead of the new season.
Yeah, a few comments come in. Let's get to some of them. Of course, the team are over in Germany at the moment. Dean Milne says, I wonder if he'll have a behind closed door game against a German team. I wouldn't be surprised if one was arranged. I know it's a training camp over there. Of course, as they try and get gel together. John Adams says, how long will a new team take to gel together? Is it, of course, 6 new signings in the door? There will be more. We should expect more, and we should expect some outgoings as well. Let's just hope they hit the ground running. I think it's important that players have come in early on in the summer for the start of pre-season. I think that is good. And let's hope they can, as I mentioned earlier on, hit the ground running, because they've got some huge games on the horizon in the form of the Champions League qualifiers. Broxley loves the Rangers review. Love that username. What did you guys think of that Lammers goal in training? Impressive, Joshua. I just want to see him doing it in the actual games. But by all accounts, speaking to players who have watched Sam Lammers in the flesh, he is a player I'm excited at seeing. I think he's been on loan the last little while at clubs. I think he said himself, and Michael Beale has said also, that he needs somewhere to call home. Let's hope that he can call Ibrox home for some years to come, because technically very good.
Yeah, I did a piece that went out when I was away over the last couple of weeks, Derek, with a couple of people from his time at PSV. It was the chief scout, chief youth scout, who was there when he came to the club at age 13, and then a gentleman who's now managing in the Belgian Pro League, who played with him all the way up throughout his youth career, so kind of knows him better than most people. The things that stood out about that were specifically his two-footedness, which is quite a unique trait. I don't think many professional players can count on their ability on either side. Maybe Yanis Hadji in the squad is someone else who can do that, but Lammers kind of has that graceful dribbling style from out wide as well that I don't think many other people in the squad will have. He's again someone, as covered, that Beale's followed for a long time. And this is the gaps in the market the Rangers are trying to exploit. They're trying to find players who maybe are of a higher quality, that when they were going to move to Atalanta, or, I feel like I'm always using the example of Todd Cantwell. When they're at their peak, you're maybe not going to be able to get them. It's about trying to find the loopholes and being smart about it, not recruiting players who have fallen off for the wrong reasons, but recruiting players who maybe have fallen off through, again, of course, all players have responsibility for their career, but there is mitigating circumstances, I'm sure, in each and every one. With Lammers, I don't think at all it's going to be a question of quality. I think it's just a matter of, can he get it going? Can he make this move work when he's not made the last few? But I think you're right to point out there that he's arrived and he signed a long-term contract. When you're on loan and it maybe doesn't work, you're not, I guess, just common sense tells you that the manager might not stick with you as much because you're not going to be around. You might struggle to get into the team. One thing, when I was speaking to, again, people from the PSV side of things about Lammers, who knew him and know his game better than anyone, having watched him mature from a young player to professional player, is that the type of game he was playing last season at the bottom of Serie A just isn't for him. Chasing the ball constantly, working hard, but maybe getting on the end of one long ball every 10 minutes. He's a player, I think, who needs to have a lot of the ball and maybe won't have played in this style of team that's as possession dominant as Michael Beale's Rangers will be next season, for a long time, probably even since his breakthrough season in the Eredivisie. And even then, he's playing for Heerenveen, who I think they finished 11th that season, so they're pretty mid-ranking. So of course, he needs to go and, as you say, do that type of thing in the game. I still think there's good reason to be excited that when you look at a player like him and you look at the type of manager that Beale is, he does feel like the player that Beale likes to work with. And at 26, he needs to make this move work as well, Derek, because it's been a few years since he has had that goal scoring season, since he has had a notable season in his career. And again, Beale is banking on the reasons for that being things that he thinks he can work on, he thinks he can prove, and ultimately make Sam Lammers the player he's meant to be and make that happen while he's a Rangers player.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him in a Rangers jersey. Before we talk about Jose Cifuentes, just to remind you folks, at the end of this month, on the 28th of July, the Rangers Review morning briefing will be going live. We'll be staging a show at New Edmonton House. Tickets are still available for the event. It'll be myself, Joshua, joined by Johnny, Stevie Clifford, and a very special guest as well. It's certainly going to be a fantastic night. And there's still some tickets available, I'm told, for that on Friday, the 28th of July. Very much looking forward to it. Josh, it'll be good getting on stage and talking all things Rangers. Yeah,
no, it'll be really good. Nice to meet people. And I think there'll have been 3 pre-season games by then. So there'll be a good bit to talk about. Hopefully the kind of squad will have almost taken shape by that point. Obviously the week before the season starts as well, so great time for it. So really looking forward to it. A few tickets left, as you say, and hopefully we can make it a good night for people that watch us every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'll do, folks, is if you want to get the link for the website, I'll pop it in the description box as well. So if you click on that, it'll take you through to buy a ticket. The start, I think it's £21.50. That includes the booking fee as well. But I'm really looking forward to coming up for that one. It's certainly going to be a real sensational evening, I'm sure. Right, let's get to Cifuentes. Dave Fulton says, will the Cifuentes deal be finalised this week? Johnny put a tweet out on Friday evening saying that despite reports coming from America, that was reports suggesting it was nearing a closure, nearing to being finalised. He says a Rangers source has told me they are currently no further forward in their pursuit of Jose Cifuentes from LAFC. This is one that's just going to drag on for a little while, Joshua, but by all accounts, I think he played last night. I think also for his club over there in the good old US of A. I really want to see him coming in at Ibrox, but I think we just need to be patient with this one.
Yeah, and it is the area of the pitch as well. I think you still look at it and you think you still need a little bit more in there. I mean, now if the season was to start tomorrow, if you were to look at the front 3 and the midfield 3, and you're to include Cantwell and Raskin, Lammers, Seaman and Dessers, that's a completely new team.
Yeah,
from when Michael Beale came into the club in January. But I think he still will want another player in that midfield to. Obviously, Ryan Jack's there. We know he's not going to play 50 games over the course of the season. John Lundstrom as well. But I think it's an area of the pitch that still needs a bit of investment. Again, it's one of these deals that is taking advantage of when Cifuentes' contract is up. As you mentioned, Derek, I think it's been going on now for well over a month, probably since it was first kind of came to the fore. And it's a question of timing rather than the interest that I think everyone knows about by now. So I'm going to watch a little bit of him this week. I've not watched that much of him yet, but very much, I think, from what I have seen, again, another player that you can see how he'd link into this Rangers team. As mentioned, it's an area of the pitch that I think needs just a little bit more investment, because I think at the base midfield, you're going to see Raskin more often than not. Obviously, John Lundstrom is out of contract next summer, but I've not heard any noises to suggest that he'll be on his way as of yet. Played a lot of games for Michael Beale last season. And as mentioned, as I think I wrote about on the website last week, I think Rangers will use a back 3 quite a lot. And we're going to do a members video on that this week to kind of break that down and maybe try and bust some myths about it. Is it more defensive? Is it not? Does it depend on what players you have? Regardless of that, I think players like Raskin, Cantwell, and hopefully Cifuentes will be absolutely key in that midfield. And again, to go to your point, you want players in as early as possible, because these Champions League games, although they're still a little while away, they're so important, and Rangers need to hit the ground running right at the start of the season, and that's why this pre-season is. We've seen different things that Beale's trying to introduce, but I think after this pre-season, this is the actual time, uninterrupted time, without media duties, without games, obviously that disrupt the season. This is uninterrupted time to just work on what he wants his Rangers team to look like, and the fact that you've got 5-6 signings in the door is a real positive, because it allows them to just, I guess, get up to speed really quickly, as opposed to signing players later in the window.
Yeah, let's get to it. So many comments coming in. First of all, this is a nice comment. Joshua, he says, welcome back, Joshua. Hope you had a nice holiday. Always nice to get a nice wee comment or two. Mark Gould, Derek, you or Joshua heading over to Hoffenheim? No, we are not. It's the day after the live show, so we're sending you over there for us. So we will get all the coverage over in Germany on the website and on our social media channels as well. So you won't miss a thing as Rangers take on the Hoffenheim. The only away day thus far. All the other friendlies taking place at Ibrox. Of course, we've got the Alan McGregor testimonial against Newcastle United. We've got the match against Hamburg and Olympiacos as well. Coming to Ibrox as Rangers gear up for the new season. Dean Mills says, watched the Fuentes and Arfield's game the other day. Commentator on Charlotte game was mad, proper Mickey Mouse voice. So there you go. But Scott Arfield over there, of course, doing his thing for Charlotte. We wish him all the best over there in the MLS. There's another comment came in. I wanted to get to it. Alan Hall says, looking forward to Kieran Dill's interview later. I think it's 12 o'clock it comes out. Absolutely. You can find that on our YouTube channel as well, Alan. That'll be on there when it goes live. Just on Kieran Dill, I think he's one of the players that's kind of went under the radar slightly. Joshua, he was the first player to be to come in, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, announced last season. I think it was before the Hearts game. He was announced at the end of last season.
Yep. So listen, I think I've said on here many times before, I watched him when he was on loan at Wigan from Everton, and he impressed me. I watched him score a hat-trick in an 8-0 thrashing of Hull City. Thought he would look top drawer. Went to Norwich, didn't quite happen for him. Suffered a number of niggling injuries, of course, and he's came to Rangers. But that signing, I think, could be similar. Not in that I wouldn't say he's as talented as Todd Cantwell, Joshua, but he certainly comes bit of a pedigree. I think he can do a job for Rangers. Listen, I'm sure if they can keep him fit, he could be a very good acquisition.
Yeah, and he's a left footer as well, isn't he? Which is something that Beale spoke about when he came back, when he came in the summer. Rangers haven't had a left footer in midfield probably since Joe Rebo, have they? I don't think they had one at all last season. Not at the top of my head. Beale, I think rarely, he's not going to play touchline hugging wingers. Sometimes he'll use, a Sakala, as we saw last season, maybe Sima. You'll use wide forwards to add a bit of variation. But I think what a player like Dill should theoretically give you is just that extra option to. I think he'll predominantly play off the right side, and he is able to play, I think, similarly to Cantwell, maybe up a line or down a line, whether that be in the midfield three or at the front three. And you're right, he's someone that I think, because he arrives and people have connotations of injury history, there's the automatic, how much is he going to be able to play? Yeah. But I guess he'll fall into the same camp as everyone else, Derek, who will arrive very much with a point to prove. And there's downsides to, I think, signing so many players in that similar mould, so many players with a point to prove, because there's a risk attached to that.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not in the vein of form that they would like to be. But I think what people's banking on, and this is, I guess, why he's made such an emphasis about meeting every player and making sure that, I guess, that the character is correct as well, is that you also then maybe sign players with a point to prove, and alongside the hunger that any new signing would have, they perhaps just have that a little bit more to come in and make their mark. So fingers crossed that he can stay fit, hit the ground running, and it does give you a bit more depth in that midfield three. If you add Cifuentes in there, you're starting to look a bit stronger, and then I guess more attention will come on to, especially with Connor Goldson's injury status, as we know, come the end of last season, when he's expected to be back this season. I think that's when the back four will come into focus as well, because that's kind of under the radar so far, aside obviously from the signing of DeJohn Sterling.
Yeah. And a question coming in here from Snecky Bear. He says, we know Tom Lawrence is soon back training. How long do you think till he is fully match ready? This is one question I think we touched on. I think it might have been last Monday or prior to that, Joshua, where we discussed Tom Lawrence and how soon he could be back on the pitch for Rangers. I think it was the back end of pre-season when Michael Beale updated us last time. But as we've seen with Yanis Hadji, it's okay coming back, but then you need to get back up to match sharpness, which can take some time. I can't put my finger on when you can come back and compete for a first team place, and whether you can recapture that form that he showed prior to suffering that injury, of course, against Ross County. I think we're going to have to show a little bit of patience with regards to Tom Lawrence. He's a top player, full of ability, but he is one I think we shouldn't be expecting to see anytime soon.
It's a really busy area of the pitch, actually, when you think about Lawrence and Hadji and Lowry as well, because I know you'll spoke about Lowry in the last couple of weeks, but he's a real key juncture as well, isn't he? Last season was a disappointing one for him. He'll want to kick on this season. Does he go on loan? Does he stay and kind of make his mark? Because there's only so many. What you've got kind of two creative positions, I'd say, in the midfield. One is that free number 10. One is the person breaking from midfield, and then I think the other two will be Raskin and another. So there's going to be a lot of competition there. Yanis Hadji as well, someone who's taken a long time to get back from a really serious injury, and towards the end of last season, obviously scored that goal against Hibs, played in the final day against St Mirren, was starting to maybe just get a bit of sharpness back, and then maybe the summer comes at the wrong time for him. Lawrence is someone that he didn't play much. He had a really good goal and assist return, but again, it's from a really small sample size. He's someone that I think is probably earned a really good reputation, despite the fact that he's been out for a lot of his Rangers career. You just hope that, given this is a serious injury at this stage in his career, he is able to come back and play a lot of minutes. But then when you look again at the competition in that area, when you look at where Campbell is going to play, is he going to play in that slightly deeper or higher midfield? I think it'll be a bit of both. Will Lammers play in the front two or the number 10 position? Again, I think it'll be a bit of both. He's someone that I guess will be rotated as well at points. I don't know if he's going to be playing every single game of the season, but I think you're right to probably gauge a bit of caution as well, because he has been out for so long. You also see Kemar Roofe finishing in training yesterday, so he obviously had that operation at the end of last season with the hope that it would be able to clear his issues. I don't think anyone's going to make any predictions about that. He just had really bad injury luck last season. Maybe they'll, especially with the return of Dr. Mark Waller, have some good luck this season and get the use out of these players that they didn't last season. And it's not only the starting 11, Derek. With 5 substitutes now, you just do have so many more options as a manager, especially in those home games. And I think all these players mentioned will come into that equation as well in certain types of games when you just need a little bit more. You're now going to have the depth of the squad that allows that.
Yeah, absolutely. And good to have Jeep tuning in as well. Good guy says, I'm glad you guys are back. We're good. We're glad to be back, Jeep, as well. Good to be back on the morning briefing. And just before I forget, I want to give a shout out as well. Good to meet Nick at the Orsa last week. So a shout out to Nick the Ranga and his son Kobe, who watches religiously over in Australia. Big fans of the show, so great to have your support, buddy. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Right, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks to everyone for interacting with the show. It's very much appreciated. Just a reminder, that live show tickets are still available on the new Edmiston House website. We go live on July the 28th. And as I mentioned, I'll stick the link in the description box. If you click that, it'll take you through where you can buy your tickets. It'll be great to see you there. Big thanks to Joshua. We'll be back again tomorrow. Just keep your eyes peeled for that Kieran Dowell interview, folks. And remember, there's a Stuart Monroe interview for the YouTube members on the site as well. There's also, I did an interview with a Rangers supporter who went over to Hong Kong over 50 years ago now, Derek Curry, who's a Hong Kong Rangers legend. So I've done a 20-minute chat with him. That'll be getting uploaded at some point as well. Very fascinating insight into his life over there in Hong Kong. So I urge you to go and check it out when we put that up as well. So loads of content coming your way. We'll be back again tomorrow to talk all things Rangers. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Monday. Bye for now.